So welcome everybody to our second Friday's program. By popular demand, we've continued our virtual programming, even though the gallery is now open. So I wanted to tell you first one thing, that this program is being recorded. So if you'd prefer, you can certainly turn off your video. And please keep your microphone on mute while we're doing the presentation part of the program. You can always make comments and ask questions in the chat box, or wait till the end and we'll be open for questions and answers at the end for discussion. So as I mentioned, the galleries have reopened in person, and we had a lovely opening reception last week for this exhibition and for this exhibition where you were witnessing history, and our other exhibition, Nevertheless She Persisted, in the library. But I know some people are still a little bit hesitant either to come out, or it's more convenient to do this virtually. So that's why we decided to offer this program virtually at this time. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Albert. I am the director of the Hofstra University Museum of Art. I know a lot of familiar names and faces are on here, so I think a lot of you have participated in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I just want to tell you I have a number of video clips in this presentation. They all worked when I did my run through. I'm just hoping that everything works as well as I do the presentation. So bear with me if something happens there. So this is just going to give you a little view. This is the exhibition Where You Were Witnessing History, and it's on view until December 10th. So this exhibition addresses the idea of memory and memorializing really life-changing events. So where were you when JFK was assassinated, when the towers fell, or when Superstorm Sandy hit Long Island? One of the impacts of significant or life-altering events is that people remember where they were, whom they were with, and what they were doing. These types of monumental events often define generations. The 20th century saw the day which will live in infamy, the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, which led the United States' entry into World War II. The 1960s were a time of unrest, highlighted by the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., along with nationwide civil rights and anti-war protests. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks changed life as we knew it, with long-lasting repercussions. In this turbulent year, 2020-21, began with the pandemic and continued with civil unrest. And the ramifications from those events are still emerging. So there are many ways that we remember and commemorate a major trauma, whether violent attacks, war, or natural disasters. These include remembrance ceremonies, the creation and erection of memorial sites, and artistic responses. Artists use their talents to express and give voice to deep emotions, sorrow, mourning, and unease about what is to come. Works by Jimmy Ernst, Yonya Fain, George Gross, Katya Kollwitz, and Gilles Perez acknowledge the wartime atrocities of the German Peasant War, World War II, the Holocaust, and genocide in Rwanda. These works reveal the artists' struggles to come to terms with their own personal experiences. By boldly identifying their subjects through explicit titles and undeniable imagery, these artists reveal how they struggled with their own personal experiences and how they came to terms with the tragic events during their lifetime. So now I'm just going to highlight one work from that little section. This is a painting by the artist Jimmy Ernst. Ernst was the son of the Dada and Surrealist artist Max Ernst and art historian journalist Louise Strauss. He spent his early years in Cologne, Germany. Under scrutiny by the German government in the 1930s, his mother, Louise Strauss, a noted Jewish intellectual, sent her son to live with her family while she left for Paris. Jimmy Ernst immigrated to the US in 1938, and by 1941, he had brought his father to America. He lost contact with his mother, who was seized in France in 1944. She was deported on one of the last trains to Auschwitz and did not survive the war. So he and his father were in the US by 1941. So this painting is called Kristallnacht, and it refers to Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, which took place on November 9th, 1938 in Germany and Austria. Thousands of Jewish businesses, homes, and synagogues were damaged or destroyed by the Nazis. Physical attacks and arrests led to the deportation of many Jews to concentration camps. In this painting, Ernst fills his canvas with fragmented lines and colors, which evoke the shards of broken glass from the shattered window panes that covered city streets. So it is seemingly a very abstract painting, but it really is referencing a very specific historical event. I'm going to show you the next slide, which has some real details of what that painting looks like up close. It is a painting that I think you lose. I'm going to go back one slide for a sec. It does have a certain amount of texture to the paint. So there's a little bit of a depth and a texture that you kind of lose in the digital image versus seeing it in person. So this just gives you some idea of how the paint is on the canvas there and how detailed those little planes of color are, that it really evokes that feeling of stained glass and broken glass. So I'll just go back one more time so you can take a moment to look at it. I think it's actually one of the most beautifully painted paintings. So very, very. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the 1960s and 70s were tumultuous times of anti-war protests and the civil rights movement. The works of art created addressed personal beliefs and experiences of the artists and served to advocate for a cause and as a call to action. Jacob Lawrence and Andy Warhol powerfully depicted volatile confrontations that occurred in Alabama during the civil rights movement. The prints by Richard Hamilton, Larry Rivers, and Peter Saul focused attention on anti-war protest, specifically the Vietnam War. So these artists employed their individual styles to communicate their support for these protest activities. So we're going to talk about two works from this section. This is the Jacob Lawrence, and some of you have probably seen this before. I think I've shown it in other programs, so you may have seen this. This is called Confrontation at the Bridge. And it's a screen print. For more than 65 years, Lawrence chronicled and celebrated the Black experience in the United States. Concerned with the struggle for freedom, justice, and human dignity, he was a storyteller who often documented important historical figures and events in a serial format. His compositions experimented with abstraction and representation, using fluid contours, flat shapes, and a limited palette of bold colors. He was commissioned to create a work for An American Portrait, a portfolio published by the federal government to celebrate the 1976 bicentennial. Lawrence portrayed a nonviolent civil rights demonstration that took place in Selma, Alabama in 1965. A group of ministers led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other demonstrators were prevented from marching into the center of the city and were arrested. In Confrontation at the Bridge, the grimaces on the faces of the people, as well as the jagged shapes in the expressly colored print, reflect the tension and emotion of the moment. And this tension, he amps up that tension by his use of his color and of these very hard-edged, jagged shapes. I think it's very interesting that those hard-edged, jagged shapes include the clouds in the sky, which normally you don't think of clouds as having hard edges. So that kind of, that choice by the artist really helps me to see that this is a very dramatic and very fraught and tense moment. I think it's also interesting is that this was a portfolio that was supposed to celebrate the bicentennial in 1976. And this is the type of imagery that was put into this portfolio. So it's interesting that he's choosing this, the civil rights protest movement as part of this history of America, which I think is an interesting choice. And this is a work by Larry Rivers. Larry Rivers is a little bit hard to categorize because his artistic style employs both abstraction and figuration. And, he started as an abstract expressionist. He was sometimes considered a pop artist, but he really doesn't fall neatly into a category. And sometimes that can lead artists to kind of not be included in certain exhibitions or articles because they don't fall neatly into a category. So this is one print from a portfolio that titled The Boston Massacre. And the individual prints draw connections between the historic incident using and referring to Paul Revere's engraving of that Boston Massacre and current events at the time, this is from 1970, such as the civil rights struggle and the war in Vietnam. So Revere's print becomes a symbol of British aggression against the American colonies. And in Victims, he appropriates newspaper images such as those depicting struggling Vietnamese people and the civil rights activist James Meredith, who is the figure along the front of the print there. He creates a connection between that colonial oppression and draws the parallels between American colonies' struggle against their ruling government and the civil rights protest against the discriminatory practices in the US and the conflict in Vietnam. So it's a very political statement. There are different, there are I think 13 different images in this portfolio. This particular one really references the civil rights movement in Vietnam. Some of the other ones have more references to the actual Boston Massacre and the prints from Paul Revere, but this one it really references what in the 1970s were current events. So as I mentioned, he appropriated images from newspapers, and I just wanted to give you an example of what that means when you appropriate or take imagery from another source. So this is the photograph, and it was the 1967 Pulitzer Prize winning photograph by Jack Thornell of James Meredith when he gets shot during his civil rights march in Mississippi. So this was a photograph that was very well known at the time. And so what Rivers does is he kind of outlines and takes this image, which in 1967 and in the late 60s, and the print was done in 1970, people would have known what this image was. I mean, we have to go back and look it up and refer to it. But when you see that figure laying prone in the front of the, in the front of the print, that was very clearly at the time a reference to James Meredith and the civil rights movement. So I think that's sometimes when we look at a print that was done a number of years back, we have to kind of unpack it and do a little research about what those images are and where they came from, and because people at the time would have known what that he was referring to. Okay, so that's that's how an artist will appropriate an image often. Okay. So the September 11th terrorist attacks, as we all know, took place 20 years ago in 2001. And the United States continues to contend with the repercussions, including issues of national security, individual privacy, war and military actions, physical and mental health ramifications. Initially, many of the memorials were temporary, but permanent memorials soon followed, including one on Hofstra's campus. We have a James Safer Phoenix, which is located on the, I guess, the southeast side of campus, which is a memorial to the 26 people, Hofstra alumni and Hofstra students that were killed on that day. So the Hofstra's Long Island Studies Institute created the September 11th, oops, I didn't want to go that far, created the September 11th project collection by beginning to collect the materials that reflected Long Island's response to 9/11. They included email correspondence sent to family and friends, emergency responders gear, newspaper biographies of those who died, accounts of those who escaped, and documentation of the Long Island memorials. The correspondence and published writings included reflections of Long Island residents as they contemplated the terrorist attacks and the subsequent war on terrorism. Artifacts also included hard hats, gloves, respirators, boots, pickaxe, a hoe from residents who worked at Ground Zero. So I'm just going to show you a little bit more. These are some of the items from the special collections. And in the corner there, we have a project that, you know, a lot of the 9/11 Remembrance Memorial events take place annually, such as the lights that they shine on 9/11 to reflect the Twin Towers. And there's often these memorial events have some kind of artistic response, you know, and there's some kind of artwork created. This particular one is called Postcards to God, Point Lookout to Ground Zero. And this was done on the 1-year anniversary, so in 2002. And this artist, Amy Cohen, often works on community-based projects that illuminates social, psychological, or historic issues. Her work inspires introspection, creativity, communication, and community building. So this project brought together more than 1,000 people in a program of remembrance and healing to mark the 1-year anniversary. The participants met at Point Lookout and crafted their postcards to God. The completed messages, incorporating text and drawing and collage, were mailed to a post office box located at Bowling Green Station near Ground Zero. So we have a selection of the cards on view. So I'm just going to give you, I have a couple of slides to show you of some of the different, you know, the different messages that were sent. Of course, I show some of the prettier ones, but some of them are all text, like a real writing. Most of them have aspects of collage and drawing incorporated in with their text. So after the project was over, the artist had gifted them to the 9/11 to the September 11th project, so that they're held at Hofstra in the special collections. And these are a series of quilts done by the artist Faith Ringgold. And these are not part of our collection. These are on loan to us. Faith Ringgold is well known for her story quilts, a medium that combines painting, quilted fabric, and storytelling. She began using quilt making in 1983 as a means of developing narratives that explore issues of race, feminism, and community. She learned quilting from her grandmother, who had learned it from her own mother. So in 2006, this is the fifth year anniversary of 9/11, the nonprofit organization Interrelations Collaborative, which is dedicated to fostering cross-cultural understanding through art among diverse student populations, commissioned Faith Ringgold to design the 9/11 Peace Story quilt. Following the tragic events of September 11th, the Interrelations Collaborative brought together young people from across New York City to document their experiences. And a selection of those drawings and writings were published in the book, What Will You Do for Peace? Impact of 9/11 on New York City Youth. So Ringgold and her assistant Grace Matthews worked with the young artists to produce a story quilt using compositions from that book. So the 9/11 Peace Story Quilt combines words and images to convey messages of healing and unity. And the collective labor of making the quilt is an expression of community building. So the project conveys the importance of respect, understanding, and communication across cultures and religions to achieve the goal of peace. So both of these projects, those cards and these quilts, are very much a community activity to build rapport within a community that results in an artwork at the end. So that's very much that collaborative art project is a very typical response to memorialize an event. That very frequently can happen. And okay, so I'm going to move on to the next kind of category is natural disasters. So these are basically the natural disasters of Hurricanes Katrina and Sandy. They're addressed by 4 different artists: Luis Cruz Azaceta, Susanna Ray, Michael Redpath, and Barbara Rue. Just giving you an idea of what's in the exhibition. Okay, so, oops, that didn't want to do that. So this is a photograph by Michael Redpath. Now, he was a New York City firefighter at the time of 9/11 and was one of the first responders to the World Trade Center. He's also a photographer and began documenting the historic event, focusing on the day-to-day efforts of firefighters, police officers, crane and iron workers, and volunteers assisting in the recovery at Ground Zero. So he has a whole series of photographs that he took that he called his Ground Zero project. When Superstorm Sandy hit in New York in 2012, Redpath's home was one of the many damaged. The negatives from his Ground Zero project were stored in the basement, which flooded. So the altered negatives have created amazing images that are, as the artist stated, something that the ocean paintbrush created. So the salt water really transformed the images and created an unexpected beauty and a certain otherworldliness or surrealist quality to the images. So now these images reflect 2 monumental events, both 9/11 and Superstorm Sandy. And I think it's they are amazing the way we have 4 in the exhibition. He has literally hundreds of them. The way the salt water damaged the negative, created an entirely new image that now says something different, says something else. I'm just going to show you a short clip. This is a video in the exhibition. Jen Plan and Susanna Ray live in the Rockaways, and Rockaways, as you know, during Sandy was quite hard hit, really ravaged, and it's they realized that every person that they were talking to had a storm story. So they set out to document it, and not only the event, that the actual storm, but also what the aftermath of the storm and what the repercussions are. So talks about a little bit about the community that they live in. So there were audio interviews and photographic portraits that delve into the storm's stories and uncovered connections between the land and the sea. The people told tales of survival, digging out, rebuilding, and hoping for things to get back to normal. So it's a very, the floodwaters kind of united people in disparate populations through shared trauma and struggle, but they also showed some of the long-standing differences that were there. So this is a 7.5-minute video. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm going to show you about a minute or so clip, so you get some idea of what this project is.
Karen, can you turn up the volume on your computer? I'm not sure if everyone can hear that.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure if everyone can hear the volume. Is everyone okay with the volume?
No, you can't hear it?
No, there's no sound.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I can hear.
Oh.
Some are saying they can hear. No, some people are shaking their heads no. I don't know if you can.
I'll put my volume up. Let me try it one more time. I'll put my volume way up.
Mhm.
It actually,
What?
It's actually not playing. There you go.
Any better?
No sound here.
No
No.
sound, no sound at all.
did you click the sound button when you shared?
I'm sorry, it's the audio is not coming through. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Did you click the sound button, the sound symbol when you
Yeah,
were
no,
sharing?
it's I can hear it fine on my computer. It's for some reason it's not translating. All right. I tried upping my volume too, and it just wasn't coming through. All right, so basically it's a series of interviews with residents from the area talking about their own experience when the floodwaters came in, you know, what their, you know, situation is afterwards. I'm sorry that part didn't work. I'm not quite sure how to troubleshoot it on the fly, so I'm gonna move on. And this is a mixed media work by the New Orleans artist Luis Cruz Azaceta. And as I mentioned, this is his response is to Hurricane Katrina. It's kind of interesting to be basically working with these images from Sandy and Katrina in the last couple of weeks, when all we've had have been these storms that we've been hearing about. So Azaceta addresses the social inequality by portraying the human toll of the natural disaster. He uses his self-portraiture to criticize the stalled national response to Hurricane Katrina in providing emergency services to his own community in New Orleans. I'll show you a detail in a moment. In the very middle of this image, you can see like a mustache and a chin where his face is.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has a little Band-Aid over his mouth, kind of putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, or is it to keep you quiet because it's keeping your lips shut? We'll leave that to your interpretation. So within days of Hurricane Katrina's landfall in 2005, the government response was criticized for mismanagement and lack of preparation, particularly for its delayed reaction to the flooding in New Orleans. Prompted by images in the media, the criticism also noted the inequality of the response depending upon the neighborhood and the local population. So this is actually a self-portrait. So he's focusing somewhat on his own personal experience during Katrina, and really a lot of it is very critical of the response, the inequality of the response. So I'm going to show you the next slide, which is, you can kind of see here, there's a Band-Aid stuck on his lips here, right, with a little red X. Really, well, as I said, whether it's, I think it's basically to keep your mouth shut and, you know, don't say anything, or don't protest. Could be, you know, as I said, a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, you know, we don't really know. And just to show you, and I'm showing another little detail of some of the imagery within that self-portrait. And here you have these homes that are upended and floating down a river kind of thing, just kind of floating. So I'm going to go back to the larger scale picture so you can see. So I showed you a little detail of this upper right corner where these houses are. And I showed you a little detail by where his lips and his mouth are, to give you some idea. So, you know, events like this, whether they're global or local, leave lasting scars on all of us and their physical environment. So as we have seen during the past year in the United States, protests and marches for civil rights and social justice continue. The pandemic expands and changes with almost every newscast. And artists have been producing works in response to these times too, as a way to personally and collectively grieve, as well as creating art that celebrates the potential of progress and resilience. So, like the artists in this exhibition, we are all witnesses to history. So I just want to know the exhibit, as I mentioned, is up until December 10th. These are the gallery hours when we're open. If you are visiting the Hofstra campus, you will be required to wear a mask while indoors. If you're attending any event, I think that's my next slide. We have some upcoming events. These are in-person. These are 2 in-person events in October. One is a film screening of Women Art Revolution, which is a documentary about the feminist art movement. The second is in a month, on the second Friday in October, we're going to be doing a book launch of a professor of history who is working on a book, Artistic Expressions in the Great War. You may recall we did an exhibition, I think in 2018, on World War I in the visual arts, and that was in conjunction with a conference of the same title. So we're going to bring up a couple works from our collection that relate to that, from that exhibit, and do a little promotion for her book and a little celebration of her publication. All events at Hofstra require pre-registration, which you can find on our website, proof of vaccination with NID, and face coverings while indoors. That's just to protect the Hofstra community, because the Hofstra community is vaccinated. And so anybody, we want to make sure that anybody coming onto campus is adhering to the same policy and rules that we have here. So I think that was it. Yes. And you can always go to our website to find more information. And I'd be happy to open it up for any kind of questions or comments now. Anybody that would like to add? I think I will stop sharing so that I can see people. Does anybody have any questions about the exhibit, about anything like that?
Karen?
Linda, yep, go ahead.
Will there be any more Zoom presentations?
There will not be in October. I'm working on something for November, but it's not finalized yet. It's with an outside group. So you can, you'll get the constant contact emails.
Right.
So when we have the virtual, we'll always put them up the week of at least.
Okay.
We'll let you
Thank
know.
you.
And they'll be updated on our website, on our calendar, on our website. And we do send out, if you're on, I know you're on our constant contact list or email list.
Right.
You'll get the notification of anything coming up.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
you're welcome.
And Karen,
Yeah.
what you're just showing, is that in the Emily Lowe
That's in the
Gallery?
Emily Lowe Gallery, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank
yes. Yeah. Oh, and just one other note, if you come to campus to visit the Emily Lowe Gallery and you want to go to the David Filderman Gallery, you must come to the Emily Lowe Gallery first, because you're going to then need a museum pass to get into the library building. Because the museum pass is going to give you, they're going to ask you your name and they're going to put the date on it, and they're going to ask for proof of vaccination. And then you'll be able to take that pass to the library, because the library is closed. It's only open to Hofstra visitors, but they made an exception for us. If you have that pass, you can go up to the 9th floor library gallery. Okay, that's a little, that just happened this past week, so. Lots of things change on the fly, so. Right. Did anyone else have a question or something they wanted to know? Anything you wanted me to go back to discuss more or look at again?
This program is very topical.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. As I said, when I was working on the works that were dealing with the hurricane and the storm, and the storms were going on as we were doing it, it was kind of surreal. So
Yeah.
Great job, Karen.
thanks, Charmise. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Hi, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
All right.
Okay, good.
So I'll hang on a few minutes if anybody has anything else they want to talk about. Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
Is vaccination mandated on campus?
Yes, it is.
Yay. I wish
Yes.
everybody would do that. I really
Faculty, staff, and students all have to be vaccinated to be here.
Good.
I've been to a series of doctors and the people who are working on me are not vaccinated.
Oh,
And really upsetting me. They're nurses
yeah.
and they're standing 1 foot away from me and they're not vaccinated.
Oh.
It scares me and it angers me. And I don't know why they're being allowed to treat patients.
They didn't go to Hofstra.
Yeah. So,
You go to the doctor and then you start counting 2 weeks so that
make
you
sure.
know.
Nothing,
Thank you, Karen.
nothing coming in the chat, Karen.
You're welcome.
A lot of thank yous.
Okay, that's good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we are all
Do you know what your November program will be?
well, it's kind of it might be it's going to probably deal with the Faith Ringgold quilts.
Oh, okay.
The organization that commissioned it, we're working on doing maybe some kind of virtual program with them about the quilt making and your own expression.
That should be very interesting.
Yeah, it's not definite yet, so I hesitate to say too much until
It's
we're sure.
okay because in our age group we will forget 10 minutes from now anyhow. So.
Yeah, so it might be a little bit of an art making activity too. We're still working on what it might and what it'll be. So trying to get some dates down. I really want to do it on the second Friday because that's what we're all used to, but I don't know that their availability is going to be that way. So I'm waiting to hear back from them about it. So we'll see what happens.
All right, I get your emails, so I guess
Yeah, if you get the email, you'll be notified when it's
Yeah.
done, when it's scheduled. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions or comments, I think I'll sign off. Thank you again for coming. I appreciate it. And hope to see some of you in the gallery.
Thank you for bringing us the program.
You're welcome.